the offseason keeps on rolling, and the Cleveland Browns are still looking for a quarterback as another veteran is off the board. Anthony Moeglin spent the German here to talk about it with you, on top of a number of things that have sort of transpired over the last couple of days. Cam Ward's pro day, different debates over where the Browns are going to go at number 2, and much, much more. Excited to have you along. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right here with the Cleveland Browns on SI YouTube channel, where you can tune in with us throughout the offseason, obviously throughout the season, with all kinds of content, including post-game press conferences, weekly press conferences, and podcasts and practice reports and things like this, where Megs and I get a chance to sit down and talk shop when it comes to this Cleveland Browns team. And right now, Megs, the conversation obviously centers around what the Browns are doing this offseason, and mostly that involves the quarterback position, which still remains a giant mystery, a giant a giant unknown for the Browns. They're continuing to search for a veteran, as we know, and that search continues with the news on Tuesday night that Russell Wilson is signing with the New York Giants. It's a 1-year deal, $10.5 million guaranteed, chance to get up over $20 million in terms of incentives that I guess are wrapped in the contract. And this is, I think, interesting on a number of fronts because it kind of impacts the Browns in a couple different ways. A, because it means he's not coming to Cleveland, and so you're still looking for a veteran. But also, in terms of what it means for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are your biggest rival in the division, and it certainly sounds like they're going to end up with Aaron Rodgers now if the Giants are pivoting and they've now embraced Russell Wilson as a veteran for their room.
Yeah, I mean, that's the final 2 teams that need a quarterback. It's Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and it's funny because we knew Cleveland was going to be shopping in the discount section of quarterbacks this offseason, and that was not a great section to begin with. But there's only like 2 dance partners left. Like it is for Cleveland, it feels like it's Kirk Cousins or Carson Wentz, and like neither of those get you very excited, especially that Kirk Cousins is going to potentially cost you a draft pick since he's still on the roster of the Atlanta Falcons. And then the Carson Wentz avenue that, kind of picked up steam this past couple of weeks, like doesn't excite me in the least. Like I would not be thrilled if Cleveland goes that route. And, that's kind of the reality of our situation, though. We knew this coming into it. I'm more so shocked that the Giants went twice into the free agent category. I feel bad for our guy Jameis. He had to have known that.
Don't feel bad for Jameis. He's going to be fine. He knows what he was getting into when he signed. And he's going to be walking around the streets of New York doing like interviews with the people, and he's going to get like a huge YouTube deal out of it for when he retires. I'm not worried about Jameis. He's going to be just fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine. I wanted to see him play, though. I wanted to see him play. Selfishly, I wanted to see him throw it to Malik Neighbors a billion times next year. But regardless of that, it's an interesting play by the Giants. But, I think it reverberates past the free agent market. Like the Giants sit right behind Cleveland at number 3 in the draft, and you're like, all right, maybe they're prepping for no quarterback, the top 2 guys not being available when they get on the clock, and now they at least have a backup plan that's Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, one that at least will in theory win you a couple games. You can kind of guess, but I don't know. It was a shocking move. I did not see it coming from the Giants.
See, but this is why this time of year is like the worst. It's the best and the worst at the same time, because like you could say on one hand, maybe it's the Giants realizing they're not going to have a shot at one of these top quarterbacks because they're going to go 1-2. On the other hand, there's reporting out there that this isn't going to derail the Giants from potentially taking somebody like Shedeur Sanders at 3 if he's there. So nobody really, there's nothing's ruled out obviously at this point. It's kind of like the glass half full, glass half empty perspectives on these things when it comes to what the Giants can still do from here. But yeah, I mean, like from a Browns standpoint, like this is interesting because it either means you're going for sure to going to go quarterback at 2, or it means you're going to pivot to one of these other veterans and like go all in with one of them. I don't know that Kirk Cousins like moves the needle in terms of making anyone feel like, and I know that the Browns aren't in the business of making fans feel good necessarily. I mean, like that's part of it, but they have to do what's best for the team and what they think is going to be advantageous to winning. I just don't know how you sell to anybody, the fan base, the locker room, or otherwise, that Carson Wentz is going to be the thing that like puts you over the top. Like when they're trying to convince Myles Garrett to come back like they did, is that really the thing that like got him to sign on the dotted line? Was like, hey man, we're going to try to get Rush, but if you don't get him, Carson Wentz, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And he was like, yeah, sure. I'm on board with that. Like, no.
Remember that year he was going to win MVP? Yeah. Remember that?
I mean, he was good at that. He was good at that point in his career. And then it all went down.
It was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago. But no, like it's so there's that. But then there's also like the I guess on some level, like maybe this does suggest the Browns are more likely to go quarterback at 2. But like at this point, as we sort of sort through what's left, your options are basically Wentz, like we said, I guess Joe Flacco, if you want to try that again, or Kirk Cousins, as you mentioned. And here's my thing with Kirk. You know, as much as anybody, like I've been fine with Kirk as an option throughout this offseason, but that was all predicated on him coming to you on the vet minimum, him being released by the Falcons. You sign him for the vet minimum. My entire point with this has been, listen, Kirk Cousins for $1.2 million and like no guaranteed money that you have to worry about beyond 2025. Yeah, like why the hell not? Like why not take a chance on that, right? Like for that price, the history with Kevin Stefanski, you might as well give it a shot for $1.2 million. I mean, that's like us, going and buying if you can even find a place that's selling food for like lunch for like $5 at this point. Like, yeah, if you could get lunch for $5, like sure, I'll go get a $5 lunch. Like that's nothing to the Haslam's. So in that sense, it added up for me. But now that you have to trade a pick for him, you'd have to take on his contract and add that onto your books in some capacity. Like I'm not on board with that. And it also like it just delays what your actual plan is at quarterback. And I get like maybe that's what some people want because they just want to wait for next year's class and see what the quarterbacks are better or they think the quarterbacks are going to be better. But I like but then you're still committed to committing some money to Kirk here in the future. So I don't know. I was okay with Kirk when those were the circumstances. Now I'm not so sold on like that being the thing. And I also like I refuse to let Kirk Cousins, the ghost of Kirk Cousins at this point in his career, like hold the Browns hostage because there was all this reporting from Albert Breer about, well, he might wait till after the draft and make it like a stipulation that if he comes to this team because he has a no trade clause, that they don't draft a quarterback in the first round. Like, no, if my plan is to draft a quarterback in the first round, you can't let Kirk Cousins dictate what you're doing. Like that's a 1-year solution. He might be completely washed. He might be completely washed. He might be completely washed right now. A year from now, he might be more washed. So like, what are we doing here?
It might even be a 6 weeks. Like the way I see it, like is kind of what you got production wise out of him last year. He was great to start the year. They were winning games. He was throwing for a boatload of yards. And then by weeks 8, 9, 10, he looked old, right? He looked like an old quarterback coming off an injury. And that's might as well. I mean, that very well could be the case next year because guess what? He's a year older and, older guys don't heal as well as when they were 27, 28, 29. And he's still coming off an Achilles injury. You don't know what he's going to be. And yes, he was with Kevin Stefanski 6 seasons ago. Like that's a long time ago. Yes, they're familiar with each other, but still a very long time ago. He's smart enough to do it. He's also what is attractive to me is, if he does come and you don't know what his attitude's going to be like, there's no reason to think he wouldn't be helpful to a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Like that is a guy you'd want your young rookie to be, kind of learning from and kind of learning the ropes from. But, I don't know. Both of those guys, like I would rather go Kirk Cousins, even, you talk about it. The attractive part to you was that he wasn't going to cost all that much. Now that compensation is a little bit different, I still take him over Carson Wentz, especially at this point in their careers and what you need out of these guys. I don't think they're going to ask him for 17 games next year. I'm hopeful that they're asking him for 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we hand the reins over to a young guy.
But the problem is he wants that. He wants you to commit to him for 17 games if he's going to come and accept this trade. Like if he's going to pass it through and waive his no trade clause, he wants to play all 17 games and be guaranteed to play all 17 games. And I can't like put my stock in Kirk Cousins playing 17 games in 2025, and that's the thing that's going to save your season. And frankly, like if that's what the Browns are thinking is going to work, then yeah, like Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are probably like dead men walking. Like they need to have a more concise plan that makes sense behind him. And I don't know, like maybe they don't like Shedeur Sanders, so their plan is one of these other quarterbacks, like a Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe or whatever. So if that's what they decide to do, I guess that's what they decide to do, and they'll have to lay in that bed if it doesn't turn out. But yeah, man, like it's slim pickings at this point. We knew that already, but with Russell Wilson off the board, and I do think Russ was one of the best options left. There was no great options. I want to make that clear on the front end here. There was, I guess we're more so on the back end of this conversation, but still, there was no great options. But like at this point, it's Kirk, it's Flacco, it's Wentz, or you're sort of just like throwing darts at some random quarterback that you're going to sign and hope can be good for you next year. Or I guess you could trade for somebody before the season starts. I don't know, but there's not a lot of options left at this point for Cleveland in terms of the veteran market.
No, you hit it right on the head, and it's getting to, as we talk here, I keep forgetting that Joe Flacco's still out there, and it's like, they're going to run it back with Flacco, aren't they? Like, that's what they convinced Myles Garrett to come back and do. You're pissed. You don't like this idea at all. But
I mean, hey, listen, I truth be told, I like the idea of Flacco more than Wentz, I think. Because like I've seen him run the offense, probably there's a little bias there, I guess, in that regard. But like, again,
same thing, man.
He's 2 years older. He's like, I don't know. Like, am I really banking on the season being saved by Joe Flacco again? Like that first time around was magical enough.
Well, that's the other thing too, is like if we want to really tell the truth about it, like there was 2 or 3 games in there. You think about the Bears game, which was just totally just chalked up to magic. Like he threw 3 picks, he looked horrible, and then like we got lucky that Justin Fields fumbled a ball out of bounds. Like that's really what it came down to. Should have lost that game. You end up losing the Texans game when he throws 2 pick sixes. So it's like, yeah, that was fun. And to your point, you've made it a couple times. Like you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain, right? And it's like, just die the hero, man. He's forever etched in Cleveland history for those 6 or 7 games, and he comes back and throws up a stinker. That changes everything.
Well, speaking of the rookie class that the Browns will be sort of exploring here in the coming weeks as well, and considering all their options with how quickly the veteran ones have sort of gone to the wayside here and dried up, they may have to, that may force the issue or reinforce the issue that they have to take a quarterback early in this draft, potentially at number 2 or at some point in this draft. I think they're taking one at some point in this draft. That much we know. It's just about where. Do they think they have the value on somebody at 2? But Cam Ward obviously is the guy who's consensusly been considered the top guy in this class, really since the combine. I tend to agree the talent level is there, and he had his pro day on Monday and put on a show in front of, a bunch of teams that were in attendance, most of them the top teams in the draft that think they might have a shot at him. Interestingly enough, the Browns really didn't send a huge contingent of people. It was assistant GM Glenn Cook and a couple scouts that were there. Now, Cook did go to Miami, so, there's nobody better to send to that venue in that space than Glenn Cook. He knows his way around. He's been there, all those different things. So he's got the connections. I'll start there real quick, Mix, because I didn't read too much into that. Honestly, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Like, I know everyone was making a big deal out of it. Like, why wouldn't Andrew Berry be there? But for me, it's like, guys, they're a month out from the draft. Like, I know they tell you that they still have work to do on these guys, like even at the combine. But by now, they kind of have a sense of how they feel about these guys. They've had them in for the top 30 visits. Right. They've talked about them. They've talked with them one-on-one. So, maybe it would have been nice to see him throw, but I'm guessing they've seen enough on tape to believe, like, yeah, if he's there too, like, we're going to take him, or, right. We like somebody else better, and they've kind of already made that distinction. So I don't think it's the end of the world that Andrew Berry wasn't there. No,
I think there's a couple like chess games going on right now potentially too. Like, hey, Browns don't send anybody. They send their assistant GM, former, guy who went to Miami just to show face, really. And they don't send their 2 top dogs. And it's like, all right, maybe Cleveland knows something, or, already has their work done. On the flip side of things, you look at Tennessee, they brought their whole entire world. Like, they brought their videographers, they brought their social media people, they brought all their head coach, GM, everybody shows up, and you're like, wait, that's interesting. And then they double down on it and say they're going to do a private workout, but they tell Schefter that, his price is going up. Which is funny, because he said that he told the Titans people when he was throwing, I'm going to seal the deal today, or whatever the hell he said. Yeah. And it sounds like they were like, nah, you can try to seal it in like a week. We'll see you. Yeah. Like, what are we doing? It's all posturing, in my opinion. Like, hey, these guys are trying to jockey around, and, Cleveland may be showing that, and truth be told, Cleveland's not let a lot of stuff get out about, or not a lot of stuff, anything get out about where they're interested. All of it's kind of hearsay, So I think that
So you think the Titans sending all those people was a smokescreen?
Oh, dude, for sure. And then for them to say, and we'll know, you'll know on Friday. So I can't take full credit for this. This is a Nathan Zagura take 100%, but you'll know Friday. If they show up and do the same thing at Penn State for Abdul Carter, it is a total, they're just trying to play with everybody and make sure that they can get a crazy offer that is 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick, because they hold all the cards and they're trying to. I think it's totally that report they sent to Schefter it was a joke. It was a joke. It was like, wait a second, you've had him for 30 work. You're 30 for 30 workout. You just saw his pro day. You have the number 1 pick. You know everything about them that you need to know. You don't need to do another workout, and then you don't need to say that the price for the number 1 pick is going to go up. Why put that nugget in there if you're not interested in moving?
Yeah, if there's a report at this point that they're willing to listen to offers, it certainly will put doubt in your mind about if they're serious about really taking how much they actually are committed to him. Mm-hmm. Because if they were convinced, if he was a bona fide, he's our guy, he's our franchise quarterback, there would be no price, right? There would be no shopping around and taking calls. And I understand, there's the old adage of well, everybody has a price. There's always something you could offer. And I guess if some team came in and was here's 3 first-rounders, then maybe. But let's think about it like this: if this was the year Andrew Luck was coming out, and I know Andrew Luck's career in hindsight didn't work out the way people wanted, but if it was Andrew Luck, do we really think that the Titans would be yeah, we're going to listen to offers for the first overall pick? No, they might say that as a tactic, but we know that they would probably be locked in on no. I mean, think about last year. The Bears, maybe they floated early on, yeah, we'll listen to some offers because they weren't sure about if they were going to pick Justin Fields or whatever. But once they got into the weeds on their evaluation, it was pretty apparent for several months that they were taking Caleb Williams. It became very obvious. Yeah. And if the Titans aren't really giving you that indication, then right.
Dude, the Bengals weren't shopping the number 1 pick in 2020 when it was Joe Burrow. It was very clear. If it was cut and dry, and they weren't trying to do this, this is them cleaning up the house and making sure all the walls are painted before they put the for sale sign out front, and showing everybody that, hey, we're doing our due diligence, man. We have our Twitter people here to take a video of this guy to post it, and that's how much we're going to go get him. But then we're going to tell Schefter that number 1, the price for the number 1 pick is going to go up. Something's not connecting in that, and that's why I think it's a little smoke screening.
I do think, to your point, Friday will be interesting to see if they're, you mentioned doing their due diligence. Maybe they're going to have their videographers there for all these top guys that they could consider, just in case it's the player that they take. And they're oh, we got to document any of these guys because who knows? And that might be sort of an indication of they're still weighing their options. I still am in the camp that I think they're probably going to take Cam Ward. That's just me. I sort of read into the videographers being there and all that as a sign that, they seem like they're all in at this point. And yeah, maybe they're still going to listen to offers, but I still think that they ultimately pull the trigger there. And then that means the draft starts with the Cleveland Browns at number 2. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, all this stuff will be interesting to see what happens. And the Schefter report that they're at least listening to offers is interesting. And as I've said numerous times, if that pick is for sale, and you're the Browns and you're sitting there and you think Cam Ward is it, then I say you do whatever you need to do to get up there and get him. I don't know if they feel that way. They might like Shador more. They might like Abdul Carter more. We'll see. But that is, to me, you don't just let it go by and go to the wayside if you think Cam Ward's the consensus can't miss quarterback that you want him to be.
I totally subscribe to that as well. I've said it 3 times before, or a number of times before. I'll say it several times going forward. They did it in 2016. They wanted Jared Goff. They got jumped. Now you look at the draft order, right? I'm looking at, after the Browns, it's the Giants. They need a quarterback for sure. The Patriots aren't taking quarterback. Jacksonville's not taking quarterback. The Raiders maybe, although they have Geno Smith and they paid a price to get him. So maybe they would, but I don't think that they jump up 6 spots. The Jets, maybe again, but they have Justin Fields. Panthers aren't going to get a quarterback. Saints are at 9. They might go get a quarterback with Derek Carr. Bears at 10. Everyone in the top 10, there's only a handful that you'd be afraid of trying to jump you. And so if that pick is for sale, man, there's a price. I'm sure they've worked it out that, hey, we won't go over this amount, and both teams will play chicken until one breaks, and either nothing happens and the Browns stay put, or the Titans like the offer that the Browns give them, and they pull the trigger and see it. But I agree with you. I tend to agree with you. I think they're trying to jump that price up, see if they can get something, and then take Cam Ward ultimately off the board.
Well, and this feels like the right place to get something off my chest here, because along the lines of thinking about teams that could jump up and try to take a quarterback, or could be looking quarterback, or what the Browns are going to do at number 2 with as it pertains to the quarterback potentially. Some of these mock drafts, Megs, are getting ridiculous. And I'm going to single out Mike Tannenbaum here as the main one, because his was the most recent. But there's been some other examples I can reference as well. He put out a mock draft on Tuesday, and in it, he has the Browns taking Abdul Carter at 2 after Cam Ward goes 1, and he has then the Giants 1 pick later taking Shedeur Sanders, and he gushes in his paragraph about how amazing Shedeur Sanders is going to be, and he might be like a fringe top 10 quarterback in this league, and he can really turn things around for the New York Giants. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, if he can really turn things around for the New York Giants, and you are projecting him to be as good as you say he is, a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, if you believe that, why would the Browns pass on him? Unless he knows something that the Browns just like hate Shedeur Sanders. I don't think anybody knows at this point. I don't think they've given any indication that that's the case.
Let's go timeout real quick, just because you're rolling right now. But there's been an amendment to the Mike Tannenbaum draft, because I was going to read exactly what he said between picks 2 and 3, because I had to laugh at it this morning. However, he's now changed it because of the Russell Wilson signing. He has the Giants taking Mason Graham, and now he has Shedeur going the 10th pick too. Do you want to take a guess? After a trade, 10? The Pittsburgh Steelers. He has the Steelers.
Oh my
God! He has the Pittsburgh Steelers trading up with Chicago to take Shedeur Sanders. If he's good enough for the Steelers to go get him, why is he not good enough for the Browns to take him at number 2? Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old in preschool, please, Spencer. Explain it to me.
Well, and I want to be clear, because I can understand where the argument back that's going to get thrown back in our faces for this take, Megs, is, well, maybe the Browns just don't like Shedeur Sanders, so they would pass on him and take Abdul Carter. And okay, I get what you're saying, but the fact remains, he still has he originally had Shedeur Sanders getting mocked to the Giants 1 pick later, and to me, it just doesn't make sense. And he was gushing about how great Shedeur Sanders is, and that's my point. If your take is Shedeur Sanders is going to be great, but there's a team that really needs a quarterback that's drafting before he goes on your board, I just don't think that adds up. Like, if you believe he's going to be great, then that probably means that most teams would also agree with you. If that's why you're like, if that's what your mock draft is, it just felt like to me with Tannenbaum and with some others that they're like mocking Shedeur Sanders to the Giants because they want him in New York. Like, that's kind of what it felt like to me. Yeah. And listen, maybe the Browns don't take Shedeur Sanders, but I'm just saying some of these mocks, it's ridiculous. And I'll throw another name out there, Mel Kiper Jr. He did the exact same thing. He went on ESPN and talked about how his number 1 quarterback for the last year has been Shedeur Sanders, and that hasn't changed. And then he had the exact same thing. Browns, despite the fact that apparently Shedeur Sanders is this quarterback 1, the Browns pass on him, and they're like, hey, you know what? We don't need a quarterback. We're going to take Abdul Carter. Okay, cool. I guess whatever. Again, if the Browns maybe don't like Shedeur Sanders, I get it, but I don't get the indication that they're like out on Shedeur Sanders, at least not from what I understand. So for me, I just find it hard to believe that, like, if people are evaluating him as this great quarterback, that they would let him go like 1 pick later to the Giants. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, here's the direct quote, and it is Cleveland Browns number 2, the pick, Travis Hunter, and the paragraph underneath says Cleveland needs a quarterback, so I considered Colorado Shedeur Sanders here, but it also needs cornerback and receiver help. Not going to read the whole thing. Cleveland's the perfect case study on why having a great cornerback and a great pass rusher does not equate to wins if you don't have a quarterback. Let's say they draft Travis Hunter, and I think Travis Hunter's a fantastic football player. He's probably the best pure football player in this draft. He plays both sides of the ball. If he's a top 10 cornerback in the NFL, that is a successful pick, right? Successful pick. I think everybody can agree with that. Denzel Ward has been a top 10 cornerback in the NFL for the last 8 years since he's been in the league, and he's played in one playoff game. He's played in 2 playoff games. He's won 1. Myles Garrett was a can't miss prospect when the Cleveland Browns had the 2017 first overall pick. It was, again, same conversation. It was decided at once they went 0-16, they were taking Myles Garrett. Again, same story. 2 playoff games, 1 playoff win, all because you don't have the quarterback solved. It doesn't matter if you have freaking prime Deion Sanders playing that side of the ball. If you don't have a quarterback, none of the other stuff even matters. So why? I don't understand how it's even a conversation at all about picking somebody else.
Unless they have Milroe or somebody graded higher than Shador, and they're like, we can double up here, and we can get Jalen, or we can get Abdul Carter, and then we can go get our quarterback later because we love Jalen Milroe. He's our second guy. Okay, fine. I just don't think that's the case. And so I can't wrap my head around anybody who's saying that Shador Sanders is their quarterback 1 or is going to be a top 10 quarterback. And then they're just like, the Browns need a quarterback, but they're taking XYZ. Also, it's one thing to mock Abdul Carter. Mocking Travis Hunter, even though I think he's going to be a tremendous player, makes 0 sense to me.
None.
0. I get you're 100% right. Like, the Browns need a corner. In what world? They have Denzel Ward, who's one of the best corners in the NFL right now, still in his prime. And on the opposite side, like Martin Emerson, I know he had a down year, but the Browns feel pretty good about Martin Emerson Jr. Like, you had one really good year, you had a bad year. I'm guessing they think that that somewhere in the middle is what you're going to get from him. And if that's true, like, he can be a pretty good corner for you then. So what are you worried about? So I'm not sitting here like thinking they need a corner. And that's also like this is why Mike Tannenbaum's a moron. I'm sorry. Like, the other part of this is like you're ignoring what they said at the combine.
He's going to play receiver in Cleveland. Yes, thank you.
Andrew Berry literally gives you nothing. But the one thing he gave you was that they view Travis Hunter as more of a receiver than a fucking corner.
And he said because of his superpower. He actually called it his superpower is his ball skills. We're going to play him at wide receiver. If he's got,
why would they take a wide receiver at number 2? Like, that just doesn't make sense without a quarterback.
Travis Hunter, and they have Kenny Pickett thrown to Travis Hunter. What? Like, no. It can't happen.
Again, this isn't a knock on Travis Hunter, because I really like Travis Hunter. I think he's going to be special, and like, he could give you like that Shohei Ohtani effect in the NFL. So that's cool, and maybe that's what the Browns want. I don't know, but I can't envision them telling us something and admitting to us something, and that was that Travis Hunter, they view him as a receiver, and then they decide, you know what, forget it. We're gonna take a receiver or 2 with no quarterback, and like again, I would get it because I understand the values there, and just same way I would get Abdul Carter, but that one's perplexing. That makes Mike Tannenbaum's thing even worse. Like, his mock draft is even worse for that. I thought he took Abdul. I forgot he actually took Travis Hunter. That one's wild to me. Absolutely wild.
He has Abdul Carter going 5 to Jacksonville, which I think is fine. He's got New England taking a tackle, but
I don't think Abdul Carter's fallen that far, by the way.
Brother, hey, dude.
Like, that's the
Travis
other thing.
Hunter is
that's the other thing.
So good.
Even his amendment to this draft was the Giants take Mason Graham before Abdul Carter. Why the hell would they do that? Sorry, I know I've been cursing a lot in this segment.
Well,
I'm like fired up today.
For context at home, I got a text saying I'm fired up today. Or I am. It's Spence Unleashed tonight or today.
Apparently, I didn't mean to curse. I'm sorry for the this is we consider this a family show.
Yeah.
Well, let's pivot here a little bit. Not pivot, but like to keep this conversation sort of going along the lines of some of these ridiculous mock drafts. It does kind of feel like the Browns are in like a no-win situation, because what I'm realizing right now about where we're at at the time of year we're at in the offseason as it pertains to the Cleveland Browns and the conversation around the Cleveland Browns, you have a camp of people who are team, you have to take a quarterback no matter what because you don't have the position. And I listen, I'm at a place where after watching the tape, watching both these guys, I'm good with Cam Ward or Shador Sanders. I think either can be successful at the NFL level for different reasons. Mm-hmm. So I'm on board with either, where I would take a quarterback at 2. That doesn't mean that, if the Browns have a different evaluation, I can't wrap my head around them not taking one. You're right. You don't want to force the issue if you don't think these guys are worth it. So if the Browns come to the conclusion they don't think that either of them are worth it, I can understand that. I think Shador's still worth it at 2, to me personally. So you have a camp of people who are like, you have to take a quarterback at 2 because you need one. I'm not saying it's because you need one. I'm just saying I think it's valuable and obviously is something that you need to fill. It's the most important position on the field. So yes, you have another camp that's like, Abdul Carter's the pick. The value's there. Don't force the issue with these quarterbacks. Like, that would be so stupid. Mm-hmm. And so the reason I say it's a no-win situation, Megs, is because no matter what they do, if they take Shador Sanders, there's going to be people who are thrilled because they took a quarterback. Thank God. And then there's going to be like half the fan base who was like, why the hell would you do this? You're going to screw this guy up. He's no good. This was a stupid decision. You should have taken Abdul Carter, and they're going to be pissed. At least until training camp when they start selling you on a quarterback again, because you can always sell hope with a quarterback, and then maybe they'll come around. But to me, you're at a place right now where it's you're going to take a quarterback and people are going to be like, half the fan base is going to be mad, or you're going to take Abdul Carter and half the fan base is going to be mad. And really, like, I can't be mad about either. Like, I'm okay if you take Abdul Carter. I get it. Would I prefer the quarterback? Yes, but I get it. If you take the quarterback, great. I think that's what you need. We know that you can't win in this league without that position. So they must have valued him pretty highly. So I can get behind either, but the Browns are going to piss off half the fan base. It feels like no matter what. And it just feels like people are talking themselves in circles at this point about these two guys.
Yeah. And the conversations are only going to continue. And we have 4 weeks. Like, it feels really close. Like, we're a month away, but we still have 4 weeks left of the same conversation. But you're so right. The ultimate thing that's going to unite this fan base and make everybody happy is winning football games, right? That's all it's going to come down to. There's going to be people barking on both sides of the aisle, if you will, if they go non-quarterback to quarterback. Like, it'll be loud. It's going to be frustrating. All the talking heads, us included, are going to have an agenda of some kind to push. Obviously, ours, like, mine for sure. It is take a quarterback. But to your point, whoever they go with, you're going to be able to sell yourself on. If they even go Travis Hunter, they go Abdul Carter, like, you're going to get a fantastic football player regardless of who you pick. So
but if they take Shador Sanders, there's going to be people who don't think it's a fantastic football player.
So
they're just going to write him off. And then, like I said, eventually they'll come around because that's a quarterback. But that's the difference. It's like Abdul Carter. I think people will be like, yeah, you got the best player on the board. If it's Shador Sanders, people are going to be mad for a different reason. Mm-hmm. Like, if you take Abdul Carter, I think people can at least understand, like, okay, he was the best player on the board, but there'll still be people who are mad because it's like, how are you going to win without a quarterback? Well, if you take the quarterback, it's going to be a different reason why people are mad, because they're going to be like, well, this quarterback sucks. He's no good. Like, it's I don't know. You just can't win.
You can't win. You can't win in this situation. And it's like, to me, like, if you go Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter or whomever, you're just saying goodbye Andrew Berry, goodbye Kevin Stefanski, because next year's not going to go well. And
see, but I will say, though, and this is part of the reason why I'm not going to be mad if they take Abdul Carter. Like, if you take Abdul Carter, that is this regime acting in a way where they're like, we're not letting the pressure of maybe not having a job next year dictate what we do. And I do think that's important. You can't go into a draft and just like do something because the fan base is yelling about it and you feel like you might get fired next year if you don't. Like, if they don't like Shador Sanders, fine, I can understand that. Yeah. But you can't just take him because you're worried about your job security. And so taking Abdul Carter would speak to the idea that, like, they're not letting that pressure get to them. And so I can respect that. That's why I'm saying, like, I could be on board with it if they do it, because, okay, clearly they didn't like these quarterbacks enough. I feel differently. I like the quarterbacks. But to your point, like, I'm in the middle where it's like, no, you can't just take a quarterback to take a quarterback. I don't agree with the fan base, the one section of the fan base on that entirely. I like this quarterback, so I think you can take him. But then I also understand where, like, Abdul Carter makes sense. But in the end, it's just going to be this yelling back and forth about, like, who was right and who was wrong until we see one or the other play on Sundays and we get an actual sense of, like, what they're going to do. People are also forgetting pretty quickly here that Abdul Carter has this foot thing. And maybe it's nothing and it heals, but, those injuries have a history of, like, coming back and people needing screws in their feet. You just never know how that's going to pan out either.
They also think that Abdul Carter is Myles Garrett 2.0, and mean, truthfully, he's not. Like, there's some concern. Not saying
he's undersized. Yeah,
he's undersized. There's some things that he could still improve upon. But him being a 4-3 defensive end where he's got to be the run stopper and the pass rusher, like that could potentially be concerning. For a guy who is really good at pinning his ears back and going to get quarterbacks. Maybe not the best against the run. He's not a can't miss prospect, which we can't lose sight of just because everyone gets so excited about him.
Well, can I say this too on the quarterback thing? Because this is another thing and listen, maybe some fans need to sit down when I say this because they're going to think this is a wild take. But listen to me. I'm looking right into the camera here. Okay.
There we go.
Taking a quarterback in the first round, even in the top 10 or the top 5, is not the death sentence that it used to be in the NFL. Okay. I want you to hear this because yes, several years ago, you would take a quarterback and then the plan was like, we'll let him sit for a year. And it was always like your get out of jail free card if you were on the hot seat. Like, okay, now we can put this quarterback out there and see if he's good. But you let him sit and develop. Nowadays, you start these guys so quickly, you can find out pretty quick if he's good enough or he's not good enough. Unless you're the Packers, I guess. You're the one team that still does it the old-fashioned way. But, like, think about recent examples, Megs. The Cardinals, right? They draft Josh Rosen. He was no good. Year later, they're right back in the same situation. They take Kyler Murray. And I would say Kyler Murray is at least a fringe top 10 quarterback. I think he kind of bounces in and out depending on the year. And injuries have sort of hindered him at times. But, like, I think they feel pretty good about their quarterback situation. Somebody mentioned Tennessee. They took Will Levis 2 years ago. Now they're right back in the well with a chance to pick Cam Ward. So is it really the worst thing in the world to take a quarterback and find out that he stinks and he busts out and then you win 4 games next year and then you're right back in the top 5 with a chance to take another quarterback next year? Is that really the end of the world? I understand it maybe sets back your hopes and dreams of the Browns being good. And that's the thing that people throw back in my face when I say this. They're like, well, that sounds terrible. Because then you take a quarterback and it sets the organization back and then everybody gets fired. And then you bring in a new GM and they just tear the team apart and start all over. And then it's like 3 years till we're competitive again. Listen, I got news for you. If you miss on a quarterback and that happens, the same thing could happen if you draft Abdul Carter and you only win 4 games too. Like either way, you end up in the same place. You could draft Abdul Carter and how many wins do you think Abdul Carter adding him is worth? Like, maybe 1 if he's if he's a Myles Garrett type player. If he's a Myles Garrett type player, maybe, but like maybe half a win. We're gonna say like he helps you win like maybe 1 game next year. Okay. So if you still only win 4 games, everyone might get fired anyway. Andrew Berry might be looking for a job. Kevin Stefanski might be looking for a job. And if that in that instance, it's like the new GM could come in and still tear everything down to the studs and set you back 3 years. So does it really matter if you end up in the same place? If it's when you take a pass rusher that you think could be good, or it has a chance to be really good, or you take a quarterback that you're hoping could potentially be good and give him some time to develop. Like, no, you probably end up in the same place anyway. So you might as well go down swinging with the guy that impacts the game a lot more, which is the quarterback position. And that is my TED Talk.
That is very, very well said. I don't even, you can't even.
People are going to hate me. People are going to hate me for this take.
No,
I'm going to say this take on every single platform that I have a microphone on, and everyone's going to be annoyed to hear it. But I'm telling you right now, it's not the death sentence it used to be if you miss on a quarterback in the first round. The worst case scenario is that you end up in the top 5 again next year. And guess what? Everyone's already saying next year's class has like 3 or 4 guys that everybody's going to want. Okay, well, now you're going to be in position to get those guys.
Yep. No, it's absolutely the right take. I didn't even think of the Arizona example where they go Rosen to Kyler Murray.
Dude, the 49ers.
49ers
traded up and got Trey Lance, and then they had Brock Purdy. And I get Brock Purdy was a 7th-round pick, so it was different. But that just goes to show you, like, just because you miss on one in the first round, you can figure it out. You can. And the Steelers are like the one team that, like, even they passed on a first. Like, even they swallowed their pride and said, "We got to move on from this first-round pick. He's not good." The difference is Pittsburgh's just always too good to end up in a place where they can actually draft a quarterback that might have some consequence in terms of like them actually winning again.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely, you hit the nail right on the head. There's nothing more to add. That was perfectly said. I agree totally.
I've been thinking about it all day.
We found the root. Everyone how about this? I'll add this. Send Spence a nice tweet today. There's just Twitter.
Yeah, right. People are just gonna be in my mentions like ripping me, like, what the hell's wrong with you? You don't just take a quarterback to take one.
They're gonna
Which is not what I said. I just said I think that Shedeur Sanders is good enough to take it too, and so I would rather take the chance that like he could be good and give it a shot because it's the most important position. And if I end up in the same place I'd end up with Abdul Carter, so be it. I guess that does kind of bring us to the tail end of this show, Megs, which I'll let you have more of the floor on this one since I went on a rant there. But with 1 month to go till the draft, we've thrown Shedeur Sanders' name out there. We know Mike Tannenbaum thinks they're going to take Travis Hunter, apparently. Abdul Carter's been mocked to the Browns a bunch of times. What do you think the Browns are going to do with the number 2 overall pick?
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, I think they have a price. If they say that they love Cam Ward and they want to go get Cam Ward, I think they're going to have a price that they won't go over. They won't pay more than. And if the Titans like it, they'll take it. If the Titans don't like it, they don't take it, and the Browns will back off. So ultimately, I think the Browns stay at 2, and I think it's Shedeur. I really do. I am very convinced that you don't go into next season with a question mark at quarterback for 2 reasons, right? You just are not taking a team in to the season with either Carson Wentz or Kirk Cousins and Kenny Pickett with maybe another piece in there, whether that is somebody later in the draft. I think you have to give the fan base some hope, especially after how bad last year was. Get some excitement kind of stewing. And also, I personally think, we were talking pre-show, like, I don't really know where this, like, I don't want to call it Shedeur hate is coming from, but like this Shedeur slide, I don't see it. I think Shedeur is a very good quarterback. I've watched a lot of his games. Still going to continue to watch it to try to figure it out. Yes, the offense wasn't specific to maybe a pro-style offense. It was a lot, maybe more short throws than most. But this dude's tough as nails. He's shown the ability to win. He's shown the ability to turn bad programs around and do so with the pressure of the world on his shoulders. So I think it's Shedeur Sanders. I think that people in Cleveland are going to be running around doing this all the time. And
that was the wrong arm, though. You got to have the left arm.
I got to have the left arm.
Yeah.
Kind of knew that. Yeah, for me, it's Shedeur at 2, and the Browns get their guy. They keep all their picks, and then they bolster their offense throughout the rest of the draft. I
thought of something else too, by the way, in regards to like what the Browns should do at number 2. This applies. Like, think about this for a second, Megs. The Browns' offense last year was like historically bad. I mean, their offense was with Deshaun at least, and it got a little bit better with Jameis, but with Deshaun, it was worse than like the 0-16, 1-7, 1-15 Browns. Like, it was bad. It was the worst offense in football. And so pretty much all their major needs are on the offensive side of the ball. And so that's where I'm like sitting here and I'm like, so you mean to tell me that a team that has like this many needs on offense to fill, and they haven't really addressed many of them yet because there are a lot of the skill positions and things like that they're going to sit there and they're just going to take a defensive end? Because why? Like how does that help the offense that was 32nd in EPA last year and was like doing like setting back offenses historically with how bad they can be? Like, yeah. I don't understand when all your needs are on that side of the ball, how we're all just going to point and be like, oh, defense, that's the move. That's the move at number 2. And I get it. Abdul Carter could be a great player. I have high hopes for him. I think he's talented. I like him, but it just feels weird to just be sitting there and be like, hey, we have all these offensive problems. Our offense was historically bad last year, and we need to fix it. And we don't have any of the quarterbacks coming back from last year that were in there, so we're going to change things up with, different guys, but they're all sort of retreads anyway. So let's take a defensive end. Like, that doesn't solve your problems. I don't get it. But I'm of the belief that they will also take Shedeur Sanders at this point. But I will say, if they don't take Shedeur Sanders and they take Abdul Carter, I think it becomes pretty obvious. Like, they will maybe even consider trading back up into the first round to take another quarterback, but maybe staying put at 33 rather. And maybe that's where Milroe goes. Jackson Dart is, I think, sort of graded as the 3rd best quarterback in this class, but I kind of feel like some teams might take Milroe a little higher than is maybe being projected at certain points. And I guess if you take Abdul Carter, like, from there, the rest of your top 100 picks, like, you got to be going all in on offense. You got to probably get a running back, maybe a wide receiver. Offensive line is still a major need for you, maybe a tight end. Like it becomes all about offense after that. Like they're going to take a quarterback at some point. It's just where. And so I guess like 33 becomes the pick that you look at and say, that's where they take a quarterback, or they trade back up to get a quarterback with a 5th-year option included.
Well, and I'd also say, too, this goes back to our show last week where we both did our 3-round mock drafts, and you had made a comment, something along the lines of, I went heavy offense or fix the offensive problem.
Yeah.
I mean, truth be told, that could be very realistic. Like, that could be a very realistic approach that Cleveland has, because this offense is not only were they horrible last year, but they're also getting old, right? You look kind of across everywhere, right? You're going to look at guard, right? We signed Tevin Jenkins since we talked with you guys last. I think that's a huge signing. I don't know. The numbers never came out on it, so they don't know if they signed him to replace Wyatt Teller this year or if he is an actual long-term piece to replace Joel Bitonio potentially. You got a question mark.
I'll just say this. It feels like it was more of a depth thing, and maybe this gives you a chance to see Jenkins in person, knowing that Joel Bitonio is like maybe retires at the end of this season. He's going into the final year of his contract. Or if Wyatt Teller isn't back because he's in the last year of his contract, maybe this gives you like a leg up on bringing somebody like him back and then he starts for you. But I felt like it was more depth and that he's not like guaranteed a starting spot, but that could change if they do decide to trade Wyatt Teller to you.
Well, and if the contract numbers are that of a starter, like you're going to see Wyatt Teller get traded, right? That's just the way it's going to go. If they're that of a backup, he's going to be kind of that depth piece. So your offensive line, you're going to have to solve and give me some, younger guys there. You're going to have to solve the running back room, right? Nick Chubb, I don't know that we'll ever see the Nick Chubb of old. Like he's getting to the older point. And then wide receiver without Jerry Jeudy, you got question marks kind of everywhere that you look there. So there's so many holes to solve. And tight end too, David Njoku's not getting any younger. It sucks to say. I mean, he's my age, but he's getting old in terms of NFL years. But yeah, he's not going to play forever. And I think that there's a lot of, hey, we have needs now on the offensive side of the ball, but we're also going to have needs in the near future with some of these guys as they kind of age out.
Well, and I also think it's important to keep your eye on the ball here when it comes to the moves that the Browns had made to this point.
Yeah.
And the moves that they made to this point. What have they done, Megs? Defense. Malik Collins, for example. He comes in as a defensive tackle to replace Dalvin Tomlinson, who they moved on from. They added Joe Tryon-Shoyinka as a pass rusher to potentially play opposite of Myles Garrett. They re-signed Devin Bush. Like they've made some moves on defense. They also addressed tackle, right? Cornelius Lucas, Tevin Jenkins, who has played who has played tackle and guard throughout his career. Like they've addressed some of the what haven't they addressed yet?
Cleveland guy.
Yeah, Jerome Baker, linebacker. Like they've sort of already been looking heavy defense so far this offseason. What have they not done? And I know quarterback they've also looked quarterback. They traded for Kenny Pickett. They had a meeting with Russell Wilson, so they are still obviously doing that. But like, what are the things they haven't addressed? Receiver, running back, tight end. You could still, I guess, use a starting caliber franchise or like forever left tackle potentially. Like quarterback again. Like they have one quarterback that's active right now. Like I'm reading into that a little bit too, where it feels like some of those things are the things that they're saving for the NFL draft, and that could all change if they sign like a Nick Chubb or something like that. But we all know Nick Chubb. They can't go into next season with Nick Chubb thinking like he's going to be the same Nick Chubb. Like they gotta draft somebody at some point. I think they will because this is a really good running back class. But yeah, man, like keep your eye on the ball. Like look at what they're doing. They haven't addressed certain positions to this point, and it makes you wonder, are they just kind of waiting for the draft to address some of these things, quarterback included? So I think that's important to note as well. All right, that's going to do it for Anthony Moeglin and myself. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I apologize for my profanity, and I apologize for my long-windedness on some of these topics. But man,
fired up. We're fired up tonight,
dude. I can't. Like this week, I'm at a point. Like I wish the draft was just tomorrow. I just wish it was tomorrow. I can't do this anymore. I'm pulling my hair out. I'm going crazy. I'm talking in circles with people about the same damn things. It's becoming like politics. It's like you're dug in on one side or the other, and nobody can agree. So I'm over it. I just want to get a player, and then we can talk about that. So
1 month away, Spence.
Less than a month. I like hearing that better. But I implore you and encourage you to please like and subscribe to our show, to our channel here with the Cleveland Browns on SI on YouTube. We have plenty of other content like this. Megs and I have been keeping it 100 with you over the course of the offseason each and every single week, but also press conferences and stuff from the combine. We got
can't wait
season.
You were
got
saying
all kinds of stuff. So
You were saying this earlier, post game, pre game. I can't wait.
I said the combine.
No.
We'll have Andrew Berry coming up in a couple weeks, his pre-draft presser and all that. So we'll have all that for you.
I can't wait for that. Like, I'm excited for football. I'm dreaming.
He's going to say nothing. I already wrote down a question though for him for that press conference. I think is actually a pretty good one. So we'll see if he actually answers it when the time comes. But yeah, we'll have that for you coming up in a couple weeks as well. So please subscribe. And of course, head on over to the Cleveland Browns on SI or si.com/NFL/Browns to see their written content as well. Megs and I contributing regularly up there, as well as many of our other writers too. So appreciate you guys stopping by. We appreciate the conversation. And if you're going as crazy as I am with all this, you can hit me up on Twitter @Spencito_, and we can vent about it. So thanks for stopping by, and be sure to keep on following along with all things Cleveland Browns with the Cleveland Browns on SI.